Picture this. You are standing on an open savanna, a very long time ago. The sun overhead is brutal. In front of you lies a freshly dead antelope. There is no fridge, there is no soap, there is no doctor for 100,000 years, and you are hungry. So you eat. You tear warm, raw, bloody meat straight from the carcass and swallow it down. By every rule your modern body knows, this should make you violently ill. Food poisoning, parasites, deadly bacteria. So how did your ancestors do exactly this, day after day, for hundreds of thousands of years, and live? That is the mystery we are digging into today. Because the story of how ancient humans ate meat without getting sick is one of the most underrated survival stories in all of human history. And it is far stranger and far cleverer than you think. Let us start with the biggest secret of all: freshness. Modern people picture cavemen gnawing on rotten, fly-covered meat, but that picture is mostly wrong. A truly fresh kill is not dangerous the way a supermarket steak left on the counter for a week is dangerous. The muscle deep inside a healthy living animal is very nearly sterile. The bacteria that make us sick, the salmonella, the E. coli, they mostly live in the gut, on the skin, and in the dirt. They multiply after death, and in the heat, they multiply shockingly fast. So the ancient rule was brutally simple: eat it now. A pride of lions does not save leftovers, and neither did early humans. When you killed or found a fresh animal, you gorged. You ate as much as your stomach could physically hold, right there, before the bacteria got a head start. Anthropologists who study modern hunter-gatherers see this exact behavior today. Among the Hadza of Tanzania, a large kill can be stripped and shared out within hours. A kill becomes an instant feast. Everyone eats until they are painfully, uncomfortably full, because tomorrow the meat will be spoiled, and tomorrow is never promised anyway. Gorging like this is not gluttony. It is a food safety strategy written into your appetite, a way of turning a dangerous pile of meat into stored body fat before a single germ can bloom. But speed alone was not enough, because the hungriest humans did not always get the fresh kill. Sometimes they only got the leftovers of a lion. For a long time, our ancestors were not the top hunters. They were scavengers. They watched the sky for circling vultures, they listened for cackling hyenas, and they raced across the plains toward a carcass that something else had killed. This is dangerous food. A carcass sitting in the sun is a bacterial bomb, crawling with rot and flies. Eating that muscle raw could genuinely kill you, so early humans got clever about which parts they took. And this is where the first tool comes in: the stone. Because while the outer meat rots quickly, there are two places bacteria struggle to reach: bone marrow and the brain. Both are sealed inside solid bone, and both stay clean and rich long after the rest of the animal has turned. Marrow is packed with fat and calories, exactly what a hungry brain craves. So our ancestors used sharp stones and heavy hammerstones to smash open the leg bones and crack open the skull. They were not fighting lions for scraps of muscle. They were waiting, then breaking into a sealed vault of nutrition that no other scavenger could reach. It was a genius survival strategy hidden inside a rock. But even the cleanest marrow could not protect you from everything, so the body evolved a weapon of its own: acid. Here is a fact that will change how you see your own stomach. The human stomach is savagely acidic. Its resting pH sits around 1.5, acidic enough to burn skin, acidic enough to dissolve metal over time. That is unusual for an animal your size. In 2015, scientists compared stomach acidity across dozens of mammals and birds, and they found a clear pattern. The animals with the most acidic stomachs are the scavengers, the vultures, and their kind, creatures that eat rotting flesh. Their acid is a chemical filter, a bath so hostile that most dangerous bacteria simply die on the way in. Think about what that acid really does. It works like a customs checkpoint at the entrance to your body. Swallow a mouthful of germs on a scrap of old meat, and the vast majority never make it past your stomach alive. This same acid is one reason it takes a fairly large dose of many bugs to actually infect a healthy person. The gatekeeper burns most of them before they ever reach your intestines. And where do humans land on that scale? Right up near the scavengers. Our stomach acid is far stronger than any plant eater would ever need. To many scientists, that acidic stomach is a fossil, a piece of living evidence that our ancestors ate a lot of risky, questionable, sometimes rotting meat, and that natural selection ruthlessly favored the humans whose guts could sterilize it. Every time you feel a little heartburn, you are feeling the echo of an ancient scavenger. Then came the single greatest food safety invention in all of history: fire. Somewhere between 1.5 million and a few 100,000 years ago, our ancestor Homo erectus began to control fire, and cooking changed everything. When you hold meat over a flame, the heat does something close to miraculous. It kills the bacteria, It kills the parasites, it destroys the tapeworm cysts and the coiled trichinella worms hiding in the muscle that could otherwise cripple or kill you. Heat unravels the very proteins that microbes are built from. A piece of meat that was a deadly gamble raw becomes safe, soft, and easy to digest once it has met the fire. And the softening matters more than it sounds. Raw meat is tough, chewy work, and every hour your ancestors spent grinding it with their teeth was an hour not spent hunting, resting, or raising children. Fire did the chewing for them. Heat breaks down the tough connective tissue, turns hard collagen into soft gelatin, and unlocks calories that a raw mouthful would have carried straight through the gut and wasted. Some scientists, most famously Richard Wrangham, argue that cooking was so powerful it literally reshaped our species. Cooked food gives up far more energy for far less effort. Your gut no longer has to do the brutal work of grinding down tough raw fibers and fighting off germs. That freed up precious energy, and much of that energy, the theory goes, flowed straight into growing a bigger, hungrier, more powerful brain. In a very real sense, we may think the way we do because our ancestors learned to cook. But fire solved the problem of the meat in front of you. It did nothing for the meat you wanted to keep. And meat, above all else, rots. So humans invented something just as clever as cooking: preservation. The enemy is water. Bacteria need moisture to grow, to multiply, to spoil. Take the water away, and you take away their power. So ancient people learned to dry their meat. They sliced it into thin strips and hung it in the sun and the wind until it went hard and leathery. We still eat the descendants of that trick today, and we call it jerky or biltong. Dried meat can last for months without a hint of a fridge, because there is simply not enough moisture left inside it for anything dangerous to live. Then they added a second layer: smoke. Hanging those strips over a slow, smoky fire did two jobs at once. The gentle heat helped dry the meat even further, and the smoke itself coated the surface in natural chemical compounds, phenols and acids, that actively poison bacteria and slow decay. Dried and smoked, a single big kill could feed a whole family through a long, brutal winter when nothing else could be hunted. Preservation did not just prevent sickness, it defeated starvation itself. And now we arrive at the strangest chapter of all. Because some ancient peoples did not fear rot, they mastered it. This is fermentation. It sounds insane, deliberately letting meat and fish partly break down before you eat it. But controlled fermentation is not the same as random rotting. When you seal meat in the right cool conditions, specific friendly bacteria take over first, and as they work, they flood the meat with acids that lower its pH and slam the door on the truly dangerous microbes. The good bugs move in and lock the bad ones out. Cultures across the frozen north did exactly this. The Inuit made iguanak from fermented walrus and seal. Iceland still produces hakarl, fermented shark, buried and aged for months until it is finally safe to eat. To an outsider, it smells like poison. To the people who make it, it is a precious, protein-rich food that kept them alive through endless dark winters. In the far north, there was often no other choice. For months, the ground was frozen, no plants would grow, and hunting could fail for weeks at a stretch. Fermentation was survival, a way to bank the summer and autumn kills and draw on them safely when the world outside turned to ice. Which raises a fair question. If this stuff is so risky, why did their bodies handle it so much better than ours would? Part of the answer is simple habit. A gut exposed to a certain food and a certain set of microbes from childhood slowly builds up a tolerance. Their immune systems and their gut bacteria were trained on this diet from birth. Drop a modern city dweller into that same meal, and they might be violently ill within the hour, not because the food is wrong, but because their pampered gut has never learned to cope with it. But there is a deeper answer too, written into our very anatomy. Compared with our plant-eating relatives, humans have a surprisingly small and simple gut, especially the large intestine. A gorilla, living on leaves, needs a huge fermenting belly to survive. We do not, because meat is such concentrated, easy fuel that we never needed all that enormous plumbing. Scientists call this the expensive tissue idea. Guts are costly to run, so as we ate more rich meat, our guts could shrink. And once again, the saved energy helped feed that growing brain. Our bodies are quietly built around a meat-rich past. Now, it would be a beautiful story to say our ancestors never got sick at all. That would be a lie. They absolutely did. People caught parasites, people got food poisoning. People died from a single bad meal, and we still find the scars of disease and malnutrition on ancient bones. There was no magic shield. What there was instead was something colder and more powerful: selection. In a world without medicine, the humans with weaker stomach acid, or slower instincts about spoiled food, or fragile guts, were simply more likely to die before they ever had children. The humans who survived passed on the strong acid, the sharp instincts, and the tolerance. Generation after generation, our whole species was quietly filtered for the ability to survive dangerous meat. So, put it all together. It was never one single trick. It was a whole stacked system. Eat it fresh and eat it fast. Steal the sealed marrow that no germ could reach. Sterilize the rest with a stomach like battery acid. Kill the parasites with fire. Dry out the water and choke the bacteria with smoke. Ferment it so the good bacteria guard the gates. And behind all of it, hundreds of thousands of years of ruthless natural selection, sharpening a body that could eat what would send the rest of the animal kingdom to an early grave. The next time you sear a steak, or wrinkle your nose at meat left out a little too long, remember something. That flash of disgust, that instinct that says do not eat that, is itself an ancient survival tool, handed down from people who learned these lessons the hardest way imaginable. Your ancestors solved one of nature's deadliest puzzles, armed with nothing but sharp stones, hot fire, endless patience, and a gut of solid iron. And the simple fact that you are here, alive, reading this today, is the living proof that they won.